Hello, everybody, and welcome to this YouTube episode from the Forward Thinking Chiropractic Alliance. You can learn more about the Forward Thinking Chiropractic Alliance at forwardthinkingchiro.com. My name is Dr. Bobby Maybee, and I didn't want to go dark or negative. We've got enough going on in this world as it is, as we are sheltered in place and locked down and whatever you want to call it under quarantine until we can flatten the curve of COVID-19, the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus. But we got to go a little dark here. There is somebody who can't get my name out of their mouth, so I guess they want chiropractic beef. Everybody loves chiropractic beef, right? So we're going to get some chiropractic beef going. But for background, what we want to talk about is you can watch my previous videos about immune boosting and chiropractic and all that sort of stuff. It's out there. But what we're talking about specifically is that in response to all that immune boosting claims from chiropractors, there's been a sharp backlash. By the way, my video was early on in the process. I saw it coming because I've seen this so many times before, and there were so many chiropractors that were putting on their social media and basically advertising that people should come in and get their immune boosting chiropractic adjustment to battle COVID-19. That regulatory bodies and professional organizations and leaders in the profession had to come out and be like, whoa, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. You cannot say that. You shouldn't say that. It's wrong to say that. One of the organizations that came out to do that was the World Federation of Chiropractic. And in addition to their statements, they had an addendum called the effects of spinal adjustment, manipulation on immunity and the immune system, a rapid review of the relevant research. And that is sort of the topic we're talking about today. So a lot of, I think almost to the letter, the references that I talked about in my video about immune boosting that doesn't happen at all are the ones that the researchers reviewed in a rapid review. And they came to a conclusion that there's no credible scientific evidence that spinal adjustment or manipulation has any clinically relevant effect. Let me highlight that. Clinically relevant effect is the key term to this whole conversation of this video, because that is the most important point about all this stuff. Are there some studies here that are suggesting some stuff might be happening, particularly in vitro, but not in actual clinical studies of clinical benefit to human beings? Yeah, there's some stuff that it suggests, but it's not very, usually they're not very good studies, and they don't have any clinical relevance that you can apply to a human being. And that's the main point. So this is the state of the evidence that we have right now. Now, of course, chiropractors will say, well, I've experienced it in my office. You know what that logical fallacy is. It's anecdote. Anecdotes are nice. Anecdotes can tend to suggest things, but they are not evidence. They're not proof of anything. If you've had these experiences in your office, please write up some case studies, and then let's see those case studies move up the ladder into further studies and all that stuff. But the anecdote just doesn't cut it, especially when you're making claims to the public in the middle of a pandemic about clinical efficacy that just doesn't exist. It's putting the cart before the horse, if you will. Anyway, so the WFC and all these other organizations, the American Chiropractic Association, and so on and so forth, come out with their statements, as well as all the regulatory bodies, or most of the regulatory bodies in the United States and other countries, saying, do not make these claims. They're unsubstantiated claims. But chiropractors believe. They believe. And some of them are rhetorical in nature. So what happened was there's this sort of it's like the Inquirer, the Sun. It's the yellow journalism rag of the chiropractic profession. It's called the Chronicle of Chiropractic. The only difference is people actually read the Inquirer, they read the Sun, and no one really reads the Chronicle of Chiropractic. In fact, this article itself only has 144 likes. And if there's any other views about this article, it's probably just evidence-informed chiropractors looking at this and laughing. So that's what most of the views usually are for these Chronicle of Chiropractic things. But I wanted to really get into this Chronicle of Chiropractic and this article itself, because someone's got my name in their mouth and they can't get it out. And we don't know who it is, because in a in a complete showing of lack of journalistic integrity, the Chronicle of Chiropractic uh, labels their authors as news staff. And here where it says more about news staff, you click on that and there's no information about news staff. So they're trying to run this anonymous. They can't even put their name behind their words. But it's fair to assume that the Chronicle of Chiropractic is news staff is specifically one Matt McCoy, because he's the one who always shares this stuff on social media. And it's pretty obvious because when you look over on the margin at all the advertisements for the Chronicle of Chiropractic, they're all Matt McCoy products or items, or Matt McCoy's best friends in the business. So you can get a Matt McCoy book, Matt McCoy's BFF, Christopher Kent on Purpose. Matt McCoy sells malpractice insurance, primarily to straight chiropractors, which, by the way, so foaming up this rhetoric that I'm about to talk about works to his financial advantage, because you foment people up, you piss them off, you divide the profession in half, you take this half that agrees with you, you want them to fight, and then you sell them malpractice insurance to show them that you're on their side. That's a nice move. That's pretty smart. I don't think that Matt McCoy's dumb at all. I think he's very smart. There's that kind of smart that you got to be concerned about. And if it's not this obvious to you, and Matt McCoy's Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation and Matt McCoy's Vertebral Subluxation Research, and on the footer, Chiro Futures, Matt McCoy's product, and Matt McCoy's other crappy friends products, it's got his fingerprints all over it. And there's certain techniques that that we know through social media having to deal with Matt McCoy that are just utilized by this person in the way that they write their rhetorical strategies. They tend to use these specific Matt McCoy, I will say, allegedly tends to use these specific techniques for writing, fomenting discontent, whatever you want to call it. One of them is he definitely uses a lot of psychological projection in his writing. The devil is the accuser. Psychological projection, blame shifting is a theory in psychology where humans defend themselves against their own unpleasant impulses by denying their existence while attributing them to others. And Matt McCoy is very well known for calling people flat earthers. Never mind that he believes in a chiropractic philosophy that was established in 1895 and hasn't changed that outlook much since, but everybody else who has embraced evidence and has progressed and tried to improve the practice and improve the profession through further knowledge since 1895, they're the flat earthers, not Matt McCoy. That's a psychological projection. A lot of that tool, and then there's another tool that the gentleman uses quite a bit, and it's called gaslighting. And it's a relationship and a political technique. It's a form of manipulation, and you can see that through this article that we're about to go through. The tactic relies on persistent denial, contradicting in line, and attempt to delegitimize the victim's belief. The irony about these two techniques, gaslighting and psychological projection, is apparently when you look at the evidence around their use, they are used predominantly by narcissists and sociopaths. I'm not saying that Matthew McCoy is a narcissist or a sociopath. I'm just saying that narcissists and sociopaths tend to use gaslighting and psychological projection as rhetorical tools frequently. And I'm also saying that when you look at the Chronicle of Chiropractic, you see gaslighting and psychological projection used frequently in the writing. But we don't know if Matthew McCoy is actually writing it because it's just written by news staff. Someone doesn't have the cojones to put their own name on these articles. So let's keep going. So this article itself says, Life West professor Dan Murphy refutes the false claims that there's no evidence supporting chiropractic immunity connection. So the World Federation of Chiropractic, the American Chiropractic Association, the president of Parker University, the director of Parker Research, multiple state regulatory bodies, multiple other organizations with a hefty amount of members in them, state associations, the International Chiropractic Association itself, all have come out to say that you cannot make these claims that adjusting the spine will boost the immune system. But Professor Dan Murphy refutes it. So, he trumps all of those people. That's right. And, there's other nonsensical small fry groups like the Chiropractic Society of Texas, the Florida Chiropractic Society, Georgia Chiropractic Council, and of course, Matt McCoy's Chiro Futures Malpractice Insurance. They all rejected those claims. So, whoa. Now you can watch the video of Dan Murphy refuting this yourself. It was previously not linked on YouTube, so you had to know the link to get to it. It might be linked now. 1,000 people have watched it, and probably 900 of those people are Forward Thinking Chiropractic Alliance members just laughing at the video. And it might be connected now to Life West. Life West might want to actually own this now, which is kind of sad. Anyways, so this interview goes on, and it's Dan Murphy on the left and this guy, Ron Oberstein, I think is how you say his name. He's the president of Life West. He's mostly just in the picture drooling as Dan Murphy weaves his story. So, and that is what it is. So Dan Murphy is an incredible storyteller. The man can weave a tale. And that is obviously, when you watch this video, that is obviously his strong suit. And a lot of people who claim that chiropractic contributed to the beneficial treatment of the flu pandemic of 1918 get it from an old video from Dan Murphy, where he also weaves a wonderful tale. It's the same tale he weaves here, which is, I don't know how many years later from the original tale he weaved, but it's still the same tale, and he's really good at it. And I think he's passionate. I think he's a nice person. I think he's genuine in his beliefs. And I also think he is a cherry picking, pseudoscientific truth stretcher to tell a great story and get people smiling and enjoying and just celebrating in your typical chiropractic tent revival evangelistic style, because there's a lot of nonsense going on in this interview right here. While this guy right here just drools. A chiropractic president gets paid a lot of money. And just completely wow. When you watch this video, it's just like wow. What's great about this video is the way it starts out. It starts out, now remember, Dan Murphy refutes the false claims that there's no evidence supporting chiropractic community connection. That's not the claim. The claim is not, see this is the gaslighting part, right? It's not a false claim that there's no evidence supporting chiropractic community connection. It is a claim that there is no clinical relevant effect. No clinically relevant effect. That is the claim. That's the conclusion. It's right there in the conclusion. So obviously the staff, the staff at the yellow rag of this chronicle, they take things out of context. They spin the words. This is all like fake news. Fake news is what it is. It's all fake news. And they spin the words to their benefit so that they can rally you up and apparently sell you malpractice insurance. The conclusion is there's no clinically relevant evidence. The conclusion is not that there's no evidence supporting chiropractic community connection, even though no one even, what is that anyways? I don't know. So the great thing about this video, and once again, you can watch it, Life West Professor Dan Murphy refutes the claims, except he starts out the video saying there is no great evidence. And he starts out the video by saying there are no clinical trials. And he starts out the video by saying, yeah, there are all kinds of biological plausibilities, which are great. That's a great start. But he also says 3 minutes in, I do not think any chiropractor should claim that what we do cures infections. We could have ended this video at 3 minutes in. There was no refutation there to start with. And then we could have ended right there 3 minutes in instead of going for half an hour where Oberstein's over there on the right just drooling and listening to Murphy tell this crazy story. And the story has nothing to do with the clinical relevance, because we already established right at the beginning of this video that there is no clinical relevance. There is no evidence for clinical relevance for human beings, that the adjustment can have some sort of effect on their life. Now, yes, he will say, we've seen it in our practices. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Once again, we got to use, these guys are supposed to be philosophers, right? Philosophy. But it's not a philosophy because they don't identify, they don't allow the ideas into their heads. It could be other things, it could be whatever, but there's no clinical evidence of human benefit. So now I want to point out, while I got some time, some of the methods that Dan Murphy, is that his name? Yeah, Dan Murphy uses in these videos to tell his story, because I've seen him in other videos do this same thing to tell his story. So this is how he tells a story, and this is how people buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. So Dan Murphy's talking, and he's not wrong. Like, he's not wrong when he's talking about biological plausibility. And there is a biological connection between the immune system and the nervous system. There is one. Everyone got really excited about this in the 90s. That's pretty well-known information. But to think that the chiropractic adjustment like dramatically changes that in some sort of fashion that could help a human being with an illness is the stretch. So one of Murphy's tactics is to take books. So he usually starts with an anecdote, and then he moves to books. And what he'll do is he'll take a book and he'll show you how big the book is, because that means there's a lot of pages, which means there's a lot of words in there. He's read the book, you haven't. It's a very important book with important stuff. You're never reading that book. But if you do read the books, whatever Dan Murphy's talking about is not in the book. It's usually not in the book. He stretches what was in the book. Now, once again, books are not evidence, but Dan Murphy will reference books quite a bit and also use this sort of appeal to authority that he's Dan Murphy. He read the big book. You didn't read the big book. He'll tell you what's in the book, and then you have to either eat it hook, line, and sinker, or you need to go buy the book and read it yourself. And most people aren't buying these books to read them themselves. And he does it over and over again. So there's one book, then we're on to the next book. And this book's interesting. So here's a testament to Dan Murphy's stretching of the truth. The Curse of Louis Pasteur. In this book, he compares Louis Pasteur and, let me bring that up because I looked in all this stuff. So he brings up Louis Pasteur and Claude Bernard, and he calls Claude Bernard Louis Pasteur's rival, his opponent, but when actually they were really good friends and they were colleagues. They had disagreements on their approaches. The irony of a vitalistic straight chiropractor bringing up Claude Bernard to prove one of their points is just beyond me. And I know none of you know who Claude Bernard is, but let me just highlight it right here so you understand. So Claude Bernard was one of the people who foundationally brought into the world of experimental medicine the idea of blinding researchers, of having blinded studies. So that's one irony. Now, the next irony is that Bernard's work, it won't let me highlight. Bernard's work had far-ranging theoretical impact on medicine and biology and marked the end of conventional vitalism. Bernard ended vitalism, and these guys are using Bernard as their claim to victory over, I guess, Pasteur's germ theory. And he ended the conventional vitalism and the elusive notion of a vital force as a legitimate scientific concept, because vitalism is not a legitimate scientific concept, no matter what anybody says. So the irony there does not escape me. But it's a book. You didn't read it. Dan Murphy did, and he's got what he's going to say, and you either have to believe it or you're going to have to read that book, which was a book that in reviews is overly simplified with its assessments from the reviews I read. I didn't read the book. I have to either take Dan Murphy's word or not, right? And then he gets into some studies, but more books. You didn't read this book. He says, but you got to read the book. It's an important book. Most people who reviewed this book, and I didn't read the book, said that it is overly simplistic for what a doctor would need to understand about the immune system. But he read the book. We didn't read the book, so you either got to believe him or not. It's always showing the title of the book, but not making reference to what's inside the book, unless it's a story. We're going to get to the point where there's probably some more books here. Oh, there's another book. So this one can be a testament to Dan Murphy's storytelling credibility or lack thereof. So there's this book, and I don't remember in the video if he ever actually discussed. Oh, see how thick this is a thick book. It's a very thick book. So there's a lot of smart stuff in that thick book, and he's read it, and you haven't. So you either need to take his word for it, or you need to read the book. But you can't read the book because he'll let you know. Man, I can't get on that one frame. That this book costs $900. So it's a really big book, and that it's an expensive book. And he's read the book, and you haven't read the book. So it must be a very important book. And whatever's in the book that he says is in the book totally ties into what we're talking about here and gives him credibility. Except he never really talks about what's in the book or how it even relates to chiropractic and the immune system and all that. Just this one idea that straight chiropractors always refer to, the biological plausibility that yes, the immune system and the nervous system are connected somehow. That's okay. That's there, but there's no clinical relevance to what you're talking about and how it affects human beings. Now the problem is Dan Murphy says this book costs $900. Then I go to Amazon today. The video was made today or yesterday. The book on Amazon today costs $446. So I'm taking that's half of the price that Dan Murphy says the book costs. I'm taking Dan Murphy's word at half off its value. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think you should too. I think he stretches the truth. I think he stretches the truth to tell a neat story, to get people like this guy smiling and feeling good about being a chiropractor, and not challenging them enough to look into it themselves. And this guy's supposed to be a philosopher. Now, here's his philosophy. And this is a great philosophy. Ron Oberstein, who I guess would consider himself a philosopher. Oberstein says, okay, so the adjustment affects the central nervous system. The adjustment affects the sympathetic nervous system, which is B. So A equals B. Okay, yeah, all right. So B is the sympathetic nervous system affects the immune system. B equals C. Yeah, okay. So A equals C then. No, that's not how it works. That is called post hoc ergo propter hoc. You are making a suggestion, an error in causality. And those are the things that actual research, the real research, the type of research that Dan Murphy does allude to in his talk here, the type of research that would prove clinically relevant effect. So causality, correlation is what Oberstein is talking about there, does not equal the causation, which is what the research would clarify. And there is no research that clarifies a clinical benefit to chiropractic adjustment affecting the immune system. But they feel pretty smart, they're like pretty smart. But that's not how it works, because there's one piece missing with that A, B, C equation, and that is the D, and the D is the clinical benefit to the patient, the human. So Murphy, in this video, he sort of evolves it from anecdote to book, which is still not evidence. And then he starts referencing some evidence. He references core, or he cherry picks core from like urban core from 1947. He cherry picks some core stuff. But the thing with research is, like, people build on it, they progress. So something in 1947, which would have been said then, might not be true now. The knowledge base could have expanded from then. And Core's idea of a mechanical dysfunction affecting the sympathetic nervous system has been dismantled by physical therapists, chiropractors, osteopaths in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Core's ideas were great. Core is an awesome foundational figure in the world of mechanical, physiological medicine. But that was 1947, and things have advanced since then in knowledge. And then my favorite, because Dan Murphy says that the I'll say his name wrong, Jang study in spine 1997 absolutely proves it. He says it proves. Oh no, he didn't. He said prove. He said it proves that there's a connection between the mechanical system and the sympathetic system, except that this study was done on chickens. Bark, 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 bark. And chickens are not humans, last time I checked, but I haven't taken biology in a long time, so I don't know. But that is still an in vitro type study. It's still theoretical. It's still not clinically relevant. And what we're talking about with clinical relevance is you can't make claims to the public about something that you haven't proven to be clinically relevant. You just can't do it. It's cart before the horse. You can't sell it if you don't know it's true. And that is what we're talking about here when we talk about don't make these claims because you don't have the proof. You just have a general idea that this might be happening. You might see it, causation, and all that stuff in your practice, but it's not proof. We do appreciate, I mean, things definitely do happen in the office, and patients have these effects and these benefits, and they'll come to you and say things, and we want to believe it, and I want to believe it. I definitely want to believe that we can do all these amazing things, but I also want to back it up with some evidence so that there's a little more firepower when I say that I'm doing what I think I'm doing. And you know what? And that's the thing that Murphy and Oberstein get into this. Murphy calls people who doubt these ideas as cynics, and they're not cynics. I rarely know any true cynics in the chiropractic profession. There are some, but they're pretty rare. These people, including me, are skeptics. We're skeptical. It's not that we never looked into this information. It's not that we never allowed it into our head. It's not that we've never investigated. It's not that we never wanted to believe. It is that what we saw and what we see doesn't match up to the claims being made. And the burden of proof is on the person who makes the claims. It's not on us. It's on you to prove it. And the proof is not there. So this is one of the big problems with this idea is they think the straight vitalistic chiropractors think we hate the idea. Right now, I'm looking at a world where in New York City, more people have died than the amount of people that died in 9/11. We're looking at a economic collapse of unprecedented scale. Money disappeared just down the tubes. A joblessness, an economic forecast that does not look pretty, a health situation that does not look pretty, a societal situation that does not look pretty. I would love if chiropractic had this kind of benefit to humanity. And don't you think every public health organization in the world, every government in the world, every hospital system in the world wouldn't, if this was true, if this was completely true, that chiropractic adjustments had some sort of real clinical human effect on the immune system and could help you fight off viruses and all this other stuff, don't you think they would have us on the front lines? Wouldn't it be great to be here? I would love to be a hero. I would love to be a superhero that saved the world, because that's what this would do. But it's not there. They're not asking. They're not calling, because there's no evidence that it happens, and it probably does not happen in any clinically relevant manner. That's just the reality. I mean, that's logic. That's about as logical as it gets. But people believe what they believe, and there's not much you can do about it. All you can do is ask them to not, I mean, if you're not going to tell the truth, at least don't lie. So you can't sell this to the public because it doesn't exist. Now, what the last sort of things that we get into, or Murphy gets into, is blaming the lack of research on finances. And yes, research is expensive, and it's expensive to do the proper studies to prove all this stuff or disprove it and all that. But if you believe so much in it, and you could be the hero of the world in these situations, and it could put every chiropractic office on earth would be completely full every day. The investment is worth it, right? And you guys have the money. Everyone says the straight vitalistic chiropractors are the ones that are making all the money. So why not put the money into some real research? Not this nonsense. What is this? Foundation for vertebral cell. Not this. This isn't research. This is crap. Not this stuff. This is a pipe dream. This is embarrassing, is what this is. It's not research. It's not collaborative. It's nothing. Where's the money to put it into real research? You don't have it, and it's and you know you don't have it. You don't want it. You don't need it. You just want to be able to say what you want to say because it's what you believe. You don't actually want to put your work in. You don't want to put your money where your mouth is. And that's on you. The burden of proof is on you. It's not on us to believe you. It's on you to make us see what you got and then come to the table with it. And if you did, I am very, very confident that most chiropractors would, regardless of what side of the fence they're on. And then to end it all, And if you do watch this video, drooling Ron Oberstein over here is absolutely embarrassing. And he's a college president, a chiropractic college president. Absolutely just, all right, whatever. I'm not impressed, okay? I'm sure he's a nice guy, though. I'm sure he's a very passionate guy and he loves humanity and all that. Just not impressive. He ends the video with he ends it with, after all this has happened, what does he say? He says, "This is what our life graduates get when they attend Life West University. This is what they get." And I'm like, yeah, this is what they get, don't they? And I can only imagine how much money they spend on their educations nowadays to get this tripe, and they're forced to swallow this tripe, and it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. And then we end this whole video with a commercial for Dan Murphy's products. The ethics just blow my mind. So yeah, that's sort of the thing there. There's lots of like calling people who question this stuff anti-chiropractic when in fact we're probably pro-chiropractic. We love chiropractic and we respect it, but we want the right things in the right place at the right time. We're not going to put the cart before the horse. And maybe we love our patients and we love the public more than we love chiropractic. People first instead of profession first is what we're talking about here. So there's like gaslighting and psychological projection on through the article and every other article that you read in the Chronicle of Chiropractic. Let's keep it going. You want some chiropractic beef? Let's just get this started. Matt McCoy, we can go as far as you want. I mean, I guarantee you within an hour, I'll have more people watching my YouTube video than would read your article in a week. So let's have some fun.